Utah's got a new apparel partner as they officially announced they're an Adidas school.
How about that, JT? The Utes overestimating that they could go on the open market and actually take less money on the back end. It's a crossover edition of Locked On Cougars and Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch. That's JT Wistrcill. I'm host of Locked On Cougars. He is host of Locked On Utes, and we obviously are proud to be part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up on today's show, we're talking Holy War and what might tip the scales. I know we're months away from this game, but it can never come too quickly. We'll talk about BYU and Utah on the gridiron. But JT, we got to start today's show. University of Utah officially announced they have a new footwear/apparel sponsorship with Adidas. It's been long rumored it was coming down the pipe, a 7-year deal. But this is the same University of Utah program and university that told the Pac-12, hey, we're worth $50 to $60 million on the open market, and helped spur the demise of the Pac-12. This time, apparently, they had a $10 million offer from Under Armour, decided to go back out on the open market, and are now taking $6 and change from Adidas. What's going on here, JT?
Yeah, this is a really unfortunate situation for the Utes, honestly. I mean, look, and I know there's a lot of people listening to this from a Utah perspective, especially here. Look, you got a Nike school, right? There's a lot of Utah people that wanted to be a Nike school. So there are people who feel that it's unfortunate because, oh, we were excited to leave Under Armour, but now we're at Adidas, we wanted to be elsewhere. There's those people that feel that way. I think the unfortunate part is for the university, the fact that you lost money in this deal. The fact that Utah, hey, Under Armour wanted to give you the $10 million. You're like, no, we're going to go take it elsewhere. Under Armour basically says, hey, if you do that, then you're going to lose. We're not giving you the same deal. They say, all right, we're going to take it elsewhere. They didn't get anything. They came back and they're like, well, we're dropping you down a little bit. And then Utah is offended. So they go in their direction, basically. And I understand the frustrations, but at the end of the day, Utah lost money in this deal. This is a loss for Utah. You lose money year over year. And I know that people will say maybe they're a little more excited about Adidas than Under Armour. Utah lost money, and Utah does not look good in this deal. And look, it has not been a great string of PR moves for Utah, right? I think some of the private equity stuff, hey, there was employees laid off. I've heard a lot of them are going to actually be hired back. But at the end of the day, they announced this deal in December, didn't get done until July. So this has just not been the greatest, I think it's fair to say, like, string of news for Utah athletics. They could use a good football season to get it back in the good graces in some of those ways, Jake.
Hey, the one thing that cures all, if you win, that makes up for everything. But to your point, this is an interesting dynamic here because they got a 7-year deal from Adidas. So they ended an 18-year run with Under Armour. And yeah, they apparently, Under Armour said, hey, if you don't take this to market, we will give you $10 million annually. I think the caveat in this is that despite I think it averages out, based on what Steve Bartle reported from KSL Sports, Mike and Patriots in my day job, it averages out to about $6.42 million on average, if the $45 million figure that he reported is true for the Adidas deal. That's about in line with what the most recent Under Armour deal was. It was 10 years, $65 million. So you're roughly in the same realm. The good news on this, and I will add this, and I think this is where you can make up a little bit of it, is that with this Adidas deal, it is going to allow University of Utah athletes to have access to the NIL partner platform that Adidas has to help put money in the pockets of athletes. So JT, in theory, you can make up some of the difference there. It's between $3.5 to $4 million, depending on who you believe and what your reports are, the money that they lost. That could be made up by going directly into the pockets of these athletes via NIL. And that in some ways might be a little bit of a saving grace in this circumstance.
Yeah, it would be. And I think another nice saving grace for Utah, as we mentioned, the student athletes. I believe that kids today do want to be an Adidas more than Under Armour. I think Under Armour's popularity and age demographic is older. I'd say it's past 30 versus Adidas. It's not Nike, but I do think it's better than Under Armour. And we'd heard a lot about the quality of the cleats and some of the gear and things of that sort too. I think Adidas can offer something exciting. Man, Jake, is it going to be weird to see that Adidas patch instead of an Under Armour one on Utah? I think you mentioned 18 years. It's a very long time. But there are ways that Utah, as we've talked about, hey, can make up some of that financial difference, and especially in the NIL. Look, in today's world, that's all the rage. NIL, how can you market yourself and put yourself in a position to get your athletes the best form of compensation? So there's that. And as I said too, I just genuinely think a lot of these athletes, especially the skill position players that Utah struggled to land in the past, right? I think they will enjoy being Under Armour more than Adidas. So it's weird to have this coming to an end. Doesn't take effect until next July. So one more year with Under Armour, but Utah and Adidas school, it's strange. And yeah, there's potential for this to really work out for them. It's still just unfortunate that they did miss out on the finances in a way.
And let's also acknowledge this. There are a number of listeners, whether it's on the BYU side, on my side of things, or the Utah side, that simply don't care about apparel, JT. It's not the end all be all for them. And that demographic seems to skew a little bit older in terms of overall age, but I think you nailed it on the head on something. Young people, when it comes to playing sports, they grew up a Nike fan, an Adidas fan, Under Armour. They have apparel brands that they identify with, and it's a deal. It may not be the deal breaker for some people, but you being an Adidas school or you being a Nike school, it can mean the difference between getting an athlete and not getting them. And look no further than what happened with Darryn Peterson and AJ Dybantsa. Darryn Peterson has been locked in with Adidas apparently for years and got a huge deal on his rookie shoe deal with Adidas after being drafted by the Utah Jazz. AJ has been a Nike guy forever, and that's helped steer him in some ways to getting to BYU. It is a big deal for young athletes. Apparel brands are part of the equation.
Yeah, and I know you guys a couple of Rider Lions, right? He's Under Armour, which is that's an interesting dynamic. I'm not even trying to open that whole can of worms. I'm just saying we see this happen where these guys lock up with these brands early on and they stay with them. So hopefully this is a situation where in a world where everyone talks, the shoe agents can get you connected to the NIL agent or something, and you start to build a Utah connection, you get someone in the door a little bit more, because the hope would be, as we mentioned, this is the shoes you wear. Look, offensive linemen care in some regard, but it's always going to be more about the skill position guys and every little thing, right? There are certain, we just know this to be true. There are certain athletes outside of the state of Utah that when Utah pops up on their list, they may not be like, okay, that's one of my top destinations right away. But even if it's just get them in the door, like, hey, it's Adidas rather than Under Armour. Well, I like that a little bit more than an Under Armour school. Every little thing can potentially help too. It's just, I still just go back to being like Utah Adidas gear. It's so strange, Jake. It's going to take getting used to, but you're also just totally right. Real quick, like BYU fans and Utah fans, if it says Reebok on there, no one cares. They're buying it.
Well, there's Lululemon out there, Columbia. There's all these brands.
Lululemon. We're going to go broke with Lululemon, Jake.
Hey, there is Lululemon BYU gear. I have seen it on the shelves at the BYU store in Provo. So it exists. But I think the thing is, like, for BYU, I have occasionally heard from BYU fans they would like the Cougars to go with another apparel partner. I can tell you the BYU, it's going to take Nike breaking up with BYU instead of vice versa. BYU adopted Phil Knight and Lavelle Edwards were thick as thieves. They were very, very close while Lavelle was alive. And BYU was one of the early adopters to take a Nike on as their apparel provider, their uniform provider, and the like. So these brands, they are synonymous with a lot of these programs. BYU is a very, very proud Nike school. And I think in time, if this Adidas deal works out, Utah fans, they will be very proud to have the 3 stripes on their uniform, much like it was for Under Armour. And before that, it was Nike for a long run for Utah as well. It's just, it's part of the equation in modern college athletics. And it kind of comes back to, as we often talk about on these shows, JT, comes back to the almighty dollar. Green talks, money talks, and that's what Utah is chasing here.
It absolutely is. I am so curious to see how this partnership works out, how the fans embrace it. I think, as I mentioned, there's a lot of people that wanted to be a Nike school, but there's only so many schools that get to do that. And I think Utah with Adidas, look, Adidas wanted Utah at least. It's good to be wanted. This is weird, Jake, but I'm very fascinated to see how it plays out. The Under Armour era is over, and a lot of people will at least be excited about that, as I know for sure.
Okay, one final note on this, and we're going to transition into talking about the Holy War. Utah, at some point, I would love for you to hit the open market and exceed expectations rather than lower them. Just personal opinion on that matter.
I will say, I don't think they were doing anything to save the Pac-12, by the way. They weren't going to.
But hey, come on now. All those reports were that University of Utah convinced the Pac-12 that we are worth between $50 and $60 million. ESPN and Fox said you were worth about 30 to 35. The Pac-12 said, well, thanks, but no thanks. The Big 12 jumped in, took that deal, and well, we all know how that played out.
And now we get to play each other every year, Jake.
Yes, we do. It worked out in the end that we're all back together once again as members of the Big 12 Conference. Now, speaking of playing each other each year, November 9th, BYU and Utah are going to duke it out at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Very much looking forward to this game. We're going to get an early look at this, and we'll talk about some of the keys to this matchup between two teams that should be battling, I think, near the top of the Big 12 Conference. We'll get to that next as the crossover edition of Locked On Cougars and Locked On Utes rolls on. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Odoo. Running a business should not feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. You got one app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them seem to communicate with one another. That's where Odoo comes in. It's an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works together in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing your software. The best organizations know that success is not just about talent. It's about having everyone working towards the same goal. That's just as true in sports as it is in business. The thing about this is we talk about Utah, the business of sports, getting a new apparel partner. It can be a very difficult thing to decide, okay, which way are we going to go? But the thing is, it feels like everyone, if you're on the same page, it makes everything work together, and especially considering you need to have your systems all operating on the same platform. So great organizations, they win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Thank you once again for being here on a crossover edition of Locked On Utes, Locked On Cougars. I'm Jake Hatch. That's JT Wistrcill. So please join our Locked On Cougars and Locked On Utes Everydayer clubs if you don't mind. Get access to audio ad-free episodes, Locked On merch. On my side of things, we have a texting service. I believe, JT, you have that as well on your end. If correct me if I'm wrong there. Mm-hmm. The bigger point is, 7-day free trial. Get a full week to see if it's the right option for you. Go to lockedoncougars.supercast.com on my end for BYU. For you, it's lockedonutes.supercast.com, correct?
Yes, it is. Join today.
Yeah, check it out. All right. Obviously, big game coming up between BYU and Utah. And I've got no problem saying that there are, in my opinion, 4 games on BYU's schedule that will make or break this season for BYU. The number 1 game, I think, far and away is the home game for BYU against Notre Dame. But number 2, JT, if it wasn't for Notre Dame, I think this would be the number 1 game, as it kind of typically is. It's the rivalry game. It's the Holy War game. It's at Rice-Eccles Stadium. And if BYU, as I think they want to be, is considered to be a Big 12 contender this year, they're going to have to prove that on the field up there in Salt Lake City. And that's much easier said than done.
Are you telling me BYU fans would rather beat Notre Dame than Utah this year?
I think in this circumstance, they would take that. Especially, wow. JT, I think the stakes, considering what Notre Dame should be when they show up in Provo, Utah. Our good friend Spencer McLaughlin, he and I have talked about this on Locked On College Football. This is I think he's right about this. He says it's the biggest game of this century for the BYU football program. With Notre Dame coming to Provo, they should be at worst a top 5 team. If BYU gets off to a great start, they are going to be top 10 at worst. I've got no problem saying it. That's probably the biggest home game in BYU's history since the calendar changed to the 2000s. It is an absolutely gargantuan game, and I may be speaking out of turn here, and Cougar fans will hop on my mentions if I'm wrong about this. But I do think that BYU, if they were able to trade a win over Notre Dame, considering how big and a name Notre Dame is and could be this year, and trade it for a loss against Utah, I think BYU fans might take it.
They might. And let's also just be honest from a national perspective. You guys are obviously a year removed from, even though you're an 11-win team, you don't even get your name on the board, the graphic. You're not even on the graphic for a team being considered. I think if you beat a Notre Dame team that ends up being really good, and your 1 loss is to a Utah team, a rival, it's a close game, and Utah needs to be good and deliver their end of the bargain, there's a better shot you guys would make the playoff that way, because you would look at it like, it's a rivalry loss, but they beat this one team. I genuinely think that's how all of this would form out. But look, I'm okay also if you guys are all focused on the Notre Dame game and we come a few weeks down the road and you're overlooking the Utes just a little bit. You beat the Irish, you're big time now, because Utah has to win this game, Jake. You said it best. When you win 3 in a row, that's what you said to me after the rivalry last year. It's called a streak. Utah has to stop the streak. And this should be, I know how good BYU is, But when you go into someone's house, Rice-Eccles Stadium, this should be a great opportunity for Utah to beat this Cougars team that, look, if this game was in Provo, I'd pick BYU. But since it's in Salt Lake City, I think this Utah team is a great shot. If they can almost beat BYU when they're ranked top 10 with the Utes at Brandon Rose, they got to be able to do it with Devin Dampier this year, Jake, with all that's on the line.
Brandon Rose.
Who's back?
He is back. By the way, Brandon Rose is back, everybody. That was a surprise, by the way, to see that pop up. I was like, hold on, what's going on here? But nonetheless, I think you make a good point there because BYU is going for 4 straight wins, and obviously it's not that long ago. I know it's a few years in the rearview mirror, but there was a 9-game streak. There was a decade plus that BYU seemingly could not get over the hump against Utah, JT. And I know that Cougar fans, if they have their druthers, they'd beat Notre Dame, beat Utah, make a perfect run through the regular season, make a run towards the Big 12 title game, and hopefully a rematch against Texas Tech in that Big 12 championship game. But this is a game that routinely, it is a one-score affair. It doesn't matter what these two teams do, JT. They're going to play it's a touchdown difference or inside of a touchdown difference. And that's the simple fact of life, it feels like, between these two teams. The dynamic that's different for me in this, and I want you to get your thought on this. It's the new head coach. It's Morgan Scalley.
Yeah.
How will he approach this game? That is my genuine, I guess, concern in a way, is how he approaches the game versus how Kyle Whittingham has approached it of late.
I think Kyle Whittingham approached the game like a high school kid who, before he leaves the gym, has to make one last shot. I think in his mind, he had to do everything in his power to make that final shot, aka beat BYU before he left Utah. I just think you look at the way he coached, it was emotional because he is arguing analytics on some of these decisions to kick a field goal. But then at the same time, you just got to sit and ask yourself, I'm not trying to go all the way back. It's like, what are the analytics of your pass offense converting that? If you're screaming there telling me the analytics aren't there for our kicker, I don't think the analytics are there for your pass game either. So I just felt like there was so much emotion wrapped into those 4th down decisions. I don't think Morgan is going to operate in this game. It's not because, hey, Morgan's obviously not on the hot seat or anything of that nature. He just has a lot of time left to try to beat BYU. I think we know it's not just any other game. This is the biggest game on Utah's schedule. It's not even close. They have to beat BYU. They're their bitter rival. But I think in a way he will approach it with a more calm and understanding of not like I have to win my first holy war or else it's a disaster. I don't think he will be operating that. I think Kyle in a way felt like he just couldn't imagine not beating BYU one last time. And it happened. And you saw how frustrated it made him. So I think Morgan's perspective on this game will be a nice fresh element for this Utah team that I do think they are fairly ranked in the top 3. If you want to say they belong at 5 or 6, I'd understand that too. But I think this Utah team is legit capable of beating a BYU team I would genuinely say is either the first or second best team in the Big 12. I might slightly lean Tech still, Jake, but look, outside of the pass catching at the wide receiver spot, I don't have a ton of big questions about this BYU team.
Well, and I think to your point, I know that video games are at the end all be all, but EA Sports came out with their they have that player rankings. They also have the team rankings out. You saw this, JT. Texas Tech is the highest rated team in EA Sports College Football 27 for the Big 12. They are rated 87 as a team. Right behind them, 86 BYU, and the Utah is not that far off behind that. And the crazy thing is, the entire Big 12, Tech is at 87. The bottom of the totem pole is Iowa State, and they're still rated 77. This league is pretty high. Like I said, the video game is trying to prognosticate in some ways what I think the season's going to play out as, but I don't think they're far off in that. The Big 12, once again, it's going to be a league that's going to cannibalize itself in some ways, and that gives hope to Utah for ending a streak, and obviously gives hope that BYU, they feel like, okay, we're one of the Big 12 contenders. Well, yeah, they have the rating that grants them such status, but Utah's not that far off. So this should lend itself to another classic game under the lights at RES.
We've done the Bear or Dampier debate before. It's 2 outstanding Big 12 quarterbacks. I look at a Utah team. There are questions on the offensive line, but that's where it's nice for Utah. You're not going down south and have to deal with that road atmosphere. And how is your offensive line that hasn't played in a holy war together, how are they going to communicate? It's going to be quiet on 3rd and long. That's nice for Utah to get that. You have time to build the chemistry with this wide receiver unit. On the defensive side of the ball, I like the DBs that Utah has on the outside. And if those wide receivers for BYU don't emerge there, that's where your hope is you make BYU one-dimensional. Now, Utah has to figure out how to tackle Bear Bachmeier. That was something that was very complicated for them last year, Jake. I saw the clip the other day, and it got my face all red once again. And tackling LJ Martin would be nice too. But if you can make the Cougs one-dimensional, it at least helps out that process. And do I think BYU is going to walk in there and Bear Bachmeier won't be able to complete pass? No. But do I think the Utes DBs have a really good chance to stick to those wide receivers and you at least put more bodies in the box? I do think that's the case. I think there's absolutely a chance that Utah can win this game. I don't know if they'll be favored in this one, but Utah has to win this game, as I said once again. You cannot lose 4 times in a row to your rival. Would just be crazy when you're trying to still fight for your place as the top team in the state. BYU's won 3 in a row. Right now it is BYU. You lose 4 in a row. I don't even think it takes one for Utah to try to get back then. It takes like multiple wins in order to make something happen. Utah has to win this game, Jake.
Hey, you said it, JT. Utah has to win this one. BYU, they want this win. Trust me, there are Cougar fans.
Not as bad as Notre Dame, but yeah.
No, there are Cougar fans who I'm telling you are going to say, no, I will take Utah no matter what. It doesn't matter. I want the win over Utah. I get it. It's bragging rights. It's literally being able to go to church and sit next to your neighbor and be like, hey, how about that game over there? Like, it's putting the score up in the hymn thing at church. Like,
yeah.
This rivalry, and trust me, I work in sports radio here in Salt Lake City. I think most of our listeners on both sides know this. We operate a lot of what we do in sports radio off of a rivalry this rivalry generates interest 24/7, 365, and it does not take any time off. It year round. It is absolutely incredible. Now, you talk about some of the advantages you think Utah could have. We'll delve more into that. I think there are some, I guess, what we'd call tipping the scales. What could give the edge to these two teams? And we'll dig into that as we continue on with this crossover edition of Locked On Utes and Locked On Cougars. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Utes and Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Please continue to subscribe, rate, and review these shows. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a little thumbs up icon right over there. Click it. Helps the algorithm share it with either Cougar fans or Utah fans, depending on which side of the rivalry you happen to sit on. And JT and I, obviously, we like our job. So help us keep these incredible positions that we have, talking to you Cougar fans every single day as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right. So, JT, there are 3 places I think that this game is going to tilt on this coming season. And you already hit on one of them, so we'll not bury the lead here. It's the quarterback battle. You got Devin Dampier on one side, and obviously I think the Bird Ficklin dynamic plays into that for Utah. But then you have Bear Bachmeier on the other side of things. CBS Sports rated Bear Bachmeier the best sophomore quarterback in all of college football. They think he is poised to take a really what they expect is a leap this coming fall, and he's only got a 12-2 mark as a starting quarterback already as a freshman. So I think the quarterback battle, as it often does in college football, I'm not trying to make this like revolutionary. Quarterback play is the great differentiator, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Who are the other sophomores he was competing with? I am curious, real quick.
There's the Bryce Underwoods, obviously out at Michigan. You have
that's right.
Keawe Sagapula-Tele out at Cal. Yeah, there are some sophomore quarterbacks, and they consider Bear the class of the bunch. And it's not that Bear is no slouch. He's a 4-star prospect when he came out of high school. He was a all-everything type recruit. Everybody wanted him. So it's not that he's come out of seemingly nowhere. It's just considering what he accomplished. He is a very accomplished quarterback despite being pretty young relative to his college experience.
I hate saying this is the Utah guy. I actually feel like the country, in a way, college football writer-wise, moved on too quickly from what Bear was able to do. When we were doing these previews last year, Jake, I'm the one telling you, with that freshman quarterback, there's no way you're beating this Utah team that's going to go on and do these things. And Bear blew me out of the water. I could not believe how poised he looked for a freshman quarterback that didn't even get to go through spring ball with his team. Bear's tremendous, and I think that's what's going to absolutely give the Cougars a great shot to win this game. Because even if, I think Utah might have the edge being at home, BYU is going to come in the season as the better team, rankings-wise, and probably come into this game with a higher ranking for a reason. They're phenomenal, and Bear, one of the biggest reasons why. But Devin Dampier won Big 12 Newcomer of the Year last year for a reason. He's a true dynamic dual-threat quarterback. More is going to be on his plate this year because of the step back in the offensive line, but I believe his wide receiver room is overall deeper, and I'm excited to see his scrambling ability more on display, J2. They have to keep him healthy. We know now he wasn't 100% against BYU last year. I think if he is 100%, you could be talking about the best quarterback in the Big 12. Either of these two guys could end up being that way too. This is, to me, is the best Big 12 game. I cannot wait to see it happen, and the two quarterbacks are absolute box office That's why this game is going to either be Fox Big Noon or College Game Day. One of the two should be here because this is the best game on the Big 12 slate.
The tough part with that, trying to get the national attention, is you look at the other games on November 9th, JT. They got they got LSU, Alabama out there. There are some heavy hitters. Oregon, Ohio State, I think is that same day as well. And we all know that Ohio State and Big Noon kickoff are like tied at the hip. So, well, I would like to think it would happen, but just the slate of games that BYU and Utah are going up against could negate that.
Jake, when it comes to this game, I never have wrong takes. I always get the crowd numbers right. So I think I know what I'm talking about here when I say we're getting game day or Big Noon.
Hey, I hope. Hey, JT. So let it be written. So let it be said by you. So let it be done. I'm totally cool with that. Okay. So quarterback battle. I'm with you. I do think that these are two of, if not the two best quarterbacks in the Big 12. And that could go a long way. Whoever outplays the other goes a long way to winning this game. Number two thing, you already kind of mentioned, offensive line play. The trench play, I think, overall, because I didn't realize this until you and I talked to our most recent crossover before this one. I hadn't realized this until you pointed out. All 9, so all 5 offensive line and all 4 defensive line spots for Utah are turned over this season. The entirety of their trench play will have brand new starters at every position going into the season. BYU is being projected by Bleacher Report as having maybe the best offensive line in the country, and their defensive line, the Keanu Tanuvas and Justin Kirkland tandem, they themselves, those two players, have said that they believe they're going to be the best defensive tackle tandem in the Big 12 Conference. So that war in the trenches, much like the quarterback battle, could go a long way to determining this.
And it absolutely leans BYU right now. There's no doubt about it. Also, one fascinating element of this game, Jake, in my opinion, by the time we reach the Holy War, Utah will have played one good team, one truly good top 25 caliber team. It's Houston. And then it'll be this game right here. I do not think Arkansas is going to be good. Iowa State, Colorado, Cincinnati. I don't think we're talking about any even top 10 Big 12 teams right now. Outside of a Houston Cougars team, I do think is really good. So then we get to the other Cougs being BYU, and this will be a massive test because this will probably be the best trench talent they see on either side of the ball. I actually feel more confident about the offensive line as we stand here right now. I think I just look at that unit and I go, I see veterans in that room that have been coached by Jim Harding for the last few years. And I feel like Jordan Gross, the new offensive line coach, former legend, can get enough out of him this year that unit to me still could be a top 5 unit in the conference. Not top 5 in the country like they were last year, top 5 in the country. But man, that run defense is scary. I mean, you're looking at sophomores that have to really step up, a bunch of G5 players that have to be good right away, and linebackers that have to be more consistent. When John Henry Daly went down with his injury, and I like the Utah defensive ends this year, I think they're solid, but this run defense fell off a cliff last year, and they have got to get better. They got to be more consistent tackling too. That's the scary thing is right now BYU is better in the trenches, and even though Utah's at home, Utah has to really over the course of the season hope they can build, grow, and get those positions better by the time before they see BYU, or it will be a long game in Salt Lake City.
I am interested to see, by the way, because I saw that Bleacher Report put BYU maybe the best offensive line in the country, and I initially was like,
that's a lot.
It is a lot. And they were saying it's kind of built on the back because Bruce Mitchell is considered one of the best centers in the entire country. And I got no problem saying that he's absolutely elite. Andrew Gentry has got a national championship ring, having played for Michigan. Like, the guy is a solid right tackle. Kyle Safarchuk was a great addition out of the FCS ranks. And so long as I think the tandem, Sapaki Fee now is a transfer in from Washington who has entrenched himself at left tackle. And so long as they find somebody, whether it's Sonny Mocassini or somebody else at left guard, BYU's O-line is set up to be very, very good, but it's got to come together. You got to have, because last year, that 5-man unit had already known a lot of each other, like guys like Waylon Lapuaho and Isaiah Jota. They'd worked together for months, if not years at that point together. There's a little bit continuity concern there for BYU in the O-line, but you have the building blocks. And to your point, I do think that BYU has the edge right now in trench play, but this game is in the back half of the season, and that gives a lot of time for Utah, as you mentioned, to hopefully build it up. But I do think that trench warfare, it's going to be critical to whoever comes out on top in this game. All right, you ready for the final point here, JT?
Go for it.
This game routinely has 2 or 3 plays that tilt it on its head. A big run play, a big pass play, and it goes back, I'm telling you, decades. It's just routine how this goes down. What do you want to make a bold call as to what play, or will it be a call? Like, what will happen to tilt this game? Does that make sense?
It does. I'm going to go with Devin Dampier he has the big quarterback run this year. Not Bear Bachmeier, Devin Dampier with the big quarterback run. Last year for him, it was against Kansas State. I'm going to go with against BYU this year, and that's why. And it's going to be a big moment that leads to the Utes, because I do think it'll be an upset. I think Utah will beat BYU in this game, and I think it's an upset. Honestly, Jake, it might be one of their only 2 losses on the schedule, because this BYU team, in many ways, it should be their year to me. With the talent they have, with the questions Tech has too, this could be BYU's year. It just doesn't shake out in their favor schedule-wise to have to come to Salt Lake City. But hey, they've won here before and recently, so they very well could. But I'm going Devin Dampier with a big play. And I'll also throw in there, Jackson Benny does catch the interception this year. He catches the interception. There's no penalties, and that's the other one. Those 2 things got to happen.
But does Jackson Benny get dragged into the end zone by Bear Bachmeier again?
Probably at some point. He's still not the biggest, but he's solid. He's solid.
So real quick on my end, I think it's LJ Martin. He wants to go out a winner against Utah, and I think that he has a moment in this game. There was a play years ago, Tyler Algier against Boise State. It was a one cut. It was a inside zone play. He took one cut it up, right it back up against the grain, and he went like 80 yards untouched up the field against Boise State. It set the entire tone for that game of a rivalry that BYU and Boise State enjoyed during the independent era. I think it's a moment like that for LJ Martin, that he just has a moment of brilliance, and I think that could put BYU over the top. We'll see what happens, though.
I can't wait, Jake. This game is always so electric. And as I said, I just genuinely, Utah has to win this one. I mean, you're already little brother. You can't not be little brother. You've lost to him 3 times in a row. But, man, losing 4 in a row, it's the equivalent of getting swirly in a way. Like, it just can't happen, Jake. Utah has – I could get clipped on that. I don't care. You know what, Jake? I actually want to make a bet with you right now. Do you want to do a friendly wager on this game?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
The loser of this game has to wear the other winner's shirt on his show. You have to wear a Utah shirt. I'll wear a BYU shirt. You down for that?
True story.
Go.
I think I still have it. I have a Utah like Nike era shirt. I think I have it somewhere. So yeah, I'll take that bet. Let's do it. I'll take that bet. I will wear red and black and on my show.
You used to host the show.
I know, but come on. I'm a BYU alum, dude. It kind of hurts the soul still. So anyway,
alum, but I'll rock the blue. I'll rock the blue if y'all win.
All right, we'll see. So there you go, people.
Boom.
Keep that in mind. It's months away. This is June, but we're talking about November, and we'll see how it all plays out. JT, if BYU fans want more of your content who may not already know where you're at, where can they find it?
Yeah, you can head over to Locked On Utes on X, Locked On Utes on YouTube, at JT Wistrcill as well. Always some fun Utah talk going on there. And as Jake said, it's very good to talk Holy War for the state of Utah for our shows as well, too. So I think we'll both be doing some more of that frequently.
Yeah, no doubt about that. If you want more of what I do with BYU, check out Locked On Cougars on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, Locked On Cougars. I have a new handle on X, aka Twitter. I'm now at Jake Hatch. I finally got the handle I have chased for a decade, JT. So I'm glad to have that in my back pocket now. But as always, thank you for subscribing, rating, reviewing shows. Please be joining the Everydayer Clubs, LockedOnCougars.supercast.com or LockedOnUtes.supercast.com. Hey, and as always, come back tomorrow to either one of these podcasts and be an everydayer with us right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.